you were having a hard time recruiting people to Sacramento as your headquarters, and then the world went remote during the pandemic, and you had just ramped up this whole recruiting for Sacramento kind of process, I remember. How do you look at the world now, since you were a company that really coveted everybody being in the same building and working together, and now you've been forced to be remote? How do you think about it today? Are you going back to the offices or not?
Yeah, good question. I think, so Grin will stay remote. We'll always have a headquarters in Sacramento, but we leaned into remote and we're going remote. We've already gone remote. We're at 200 plus people now, and more than half are not in Sacramento. But I think like in an early stage company, like we have very clear product market fit, very predictable growth, big market opportunity. But in an early stage company, really what you're trying to do is you're trying to find product market fit and you're trying to establish the culture. And I think the process to find product market fit is so messy. It's so collaborative with customers, prospects, teammates. Like you really need in-person collaboration. Like you need to get on the whiteboard, I think, and you need to map out the problems and figure out the solutions. And so I think in an early stage company, being together is quite important. And in the same breath, right, like we took a lot of time to really establish the culture. What's the core purpose? Like, why does the organization exist? What are our values? Like, how do we think about the world? And because of that, we had a really strong hiring filter for the first 50, 60 people because we were all in the same office. So I think because of those two things, because we had that nucleus, we've been able to make the transition to remote pretty seamlessly. And I think as an early stage company, I would probably suggest still being in the same room versus starting out remote. That's just my perspective.
It's now at influencer marketing is now at 3 billion, and it's grown pretty significantly year over year. I think 30%, 40%. What do you think the next milestones are here? What do you think is the big next wave, if you will, or momentum here and how far will it go?
So for me, I think there's a bunch of market sizing stuff online. Like the way I look at the market is really bottoms up. How many brands are there in the world and what's the scale? And the second is I think as this gets to maturity, you look at a lot of the like high growth direct brands, like they're spending 20% of their digital on this,
really?
Yeah, 15, 20% of their total spend.
Wow.
On this. So you start thinking it like, what does 20% of advertising look like in digital? And right. And so I think the market sizing stuff is pretty underestimated from my view. I think when you think about where this is all going, right, I'm constantly talking to marketers, and what I'm hearing from marketers is how there's been this fundamental shift in how people consume content, and like how people consume content has changed in a pretty radical way. And the way that kind of the market describes that is this creator economy. Like we're now living in a creator economy. What does that really mean? I think it means that we used to tune into these legacy channels and stations, these companies, and you've probably seen this in your own life. You'd have these TV stations, these radio stations. And it's not like that's totally gone, but what has really taken over our lives as consumers is now we're tuning into people. We're tuning into people on exactly. And I think the future of this is that all the marketing that goes through people, historically, customer advocacy, athlete marketing, right? Influencer marketing to some degree, referral programs, ambassador programs, a lot of the stuff that I did at Red Bull and that they do at Nike, and these really kind of word of mouth driven marketing tactics. I think what you're going to start to see is those start to merge into one new discipline. The way that we talk about that internally at Grin is creator management. And I think the future is you can see a future where every consumer brand in the world has a software solution to do creator management at scale, the same way every B2B company has a CRM to do inside sales. Like I think it's like that scale. And you're already seeing it pretty heavily with the marrying of affiliate marketing and influencer marketing. Like they're so similar but also so different in certain areas. And so I think that trend will continue, being driven by this idea that the way the consumer engages with content is totally different today.
It's really interesting too, because I think a lot of the people are very comfortable paying for content, for streaming content, Disney Plus, Netflix, Hulu without ads. I pay for the NBA without ads, HBO Max, no ads. I think there is a movement when you're watching television in narrative form that you don't want advertising. It's just so annoying to deal with ads when you're watching. Can you imagine watching Queen's Gambit with ads? Whereas listening to a podcast or a YouTube channel or TikTok and having somebody in a TikTok or an Instagram feed talk about Magic Spoon cereal or have me read an ad for Zendesk or something, It's like, who cares? It's not like a big deal. You can fast forward if you don't like the commercial, or you can keep streaming by. So I feel like those places are now becoming ad free, or the expectation is less ads there, which then makes it hard to reach those customers. Am I right? That top tier customers are not reachable because they're paying for services without ads.
Yeah, I think like it's a great point. I think like
have you ever thought about that? Because I just had the realization, and when we were talking about it.
Oh yeah, I've thought a lot about it. Like the rise of ad blockers, like people have this ad fatigue for sure. Like my view is that it's on the creator to collaborate and do their best to partner with brands that they actually believe in. I think because it's such a better experience if somebody introduces a product to you that you already trust and follow, and that they actually like the product, than just being interrupted with an advertisement, whether it's on a show or in the middle of your social feed. No matter how good the targeting is, like you're still getting interrupted. Like your experience is getting interrupted. Whereas if somebody is introducing it to you in a way is honest and real and relatable, and you get the sense that they actually believe in it, that's a much better experience in my view. So yeah, I agree with you. I think the nature of entertainment is just like, and the nature of media consumption has just changed so radically.
Yeah. So you have both of those as factors. People are just swiping through TikTok and Instagram for an hour or 2 hours a day, maybe more for younger people. So that time had to come from somewhere. It came from network television or cable television. And then you just think about the top 2 streaming services, maybe the top 3 are ad-free. Twilio is the cloud communication platform used by Uber, Airbnb, Shopify, and many others. Not that you need any more names. Think about that. Uber, Airbnb, Shopify. It's basically as good as it gets. You may have heard of them in the news back in November of 2020 when they announced their $3.2 billion acquisition of Segment, one of the world's leading customer data platforms. Everybody knows Segment if you're in the industry. Twilio provides you the building blocks to add messaging, voice, and video in your web and mobile applications. They are rooted in startup culture, and they are here to help you on that journey. Twilio gives you the power to build communication apps easily so you can spend more time focusing on what counts, your customers. Engage and delight your users while scaling globally, all from one API-powered platform. From SMS to voice to WhatsApp to email, thanks to that SendGrid acquisition. And founder CEO Jeff Lawson has been on this program multiple times. I think the last time was episode 967 back in 2019. Let's book them again. And here's what you're going to get from Twilio's startup program. Access to webinars made exclusively for startups and full support via the Twilio Startups team. A $500 getting started credit and $3,000 in SendGrid credits. Sign up now, twiliostartups.com/twist. Twilio, Twilio, startups.com/twist. So go get the bag right now. $3,500 in credits are waiting there for you to just take them. twiliostartups.com/twist.